fantastic mechanism of being able to establish cues within a confrontational situation where they can start to predict what may be happening. And the only way you can learn that is through more interactive sessions, the likes of which we use this gear for.
Hey guys, it's Jason Semple here from LEGEAR and Australian Defence Apparel. I'm down at CMBT this morning with the boys from OPS, Nathan and Shane, and obviously CMBT lads, Sel and Miles. So yeah, very privileged to be here in the combative gym today. We've been going through some of the high gear combative suits and how they're employed in that combative space. You know, as we know, having some of that realism in our combative training is absolutely essential. There's no point doing, 10% strikes and 10% movements and 10% activity when you're training to survive. Today we got to ramp up the activity. Nathan, how did you feel sort of being able to strike properly with someone wearing a suit?
I think it's a fantastic mechanism to be able to take basic learned skills and then graduate it up to an environment where you can actually have contact, whether it changes the dynamic physically, but also cognitively, what your reaction is. And I think what we need to be sympathetic about with some agencies particularly is when they get recruits coming in, some of those recruits would never have experienced that type of stuff before.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's a fantastic mechanism of being able to establish cues within a confrontational situation where they can start to predict what may be happening. And we spoke before about as soon as you see someone's body weight shifting down or dropping down, you think, hey, they're going to go for a takedown.
Yep.
What do I do in response to it?
Yep.
So those little cues are important to understand and to learn, and the only way you can learn that is through more interactive sessions, the likes of which we use this gear for.
Yeah, it's got to be full immersive, and the other aspect to it is like you can teach technique and all the drills, and we'll talk to the boys about that in a second. But very specific to everyone here, whether it's that true fight combative area that the guys work in elite level sports, or whether it's a transfer into operational context. You can have, if you concentrate on the skills but don't have any immersion into the actual striking, so yourself, what's it feel like to get hit? You can have all the technique in the world, but if you've never been hit, that moment, you don't want that moment to occur when you're in a life-threatening scenario.
Absolutely. There's a chance that you could experience some form of shock, and it's that window of shock, however long that may be, milliseconds, seconds, that could actually mean the difference between surviving a confrontation and not. It's no different to a pro fighter being stunned with whatever strike, and that's the window of opportunity that you guys are looking at to then, take advantage and win.
Yeah. And really honoured to have Miles and Sel here today, and the future sort of partnership that LEGEAR and ADA are going to sort of roll through with you guys, especially in this combative context. So, today you guys first time in the impact suits.
Yep.
How did you go to the high gear?
Yeah, I thought using the impact suit was super fun. It was just added such a different element to probably what we're used to. Like obviously we're used to the sports side of combat sports, and you were talking about elite sports and the key word being a sport.
Yeah.
But now we're being introduced to that real life element of combat. And at the end of the day, that's why someone signs up to a combat gym, is to feel empowered, work on their self-defense and their ability to survive in a real life scenario. We just happen to create this sporting scenario that, makes it fun for us and turns into, a game, I guess. And what it's become is a huge industry.
Yep.
But for us, this just opened up a new element, because all of a sudden, and Nathan was explaining it to us, all the rules go out the window of the sport and it becomes a real thing.
Yeah.
And I can imagine as well with the introduction of like weapons and knives and things like that, it just takes on another form itself. So,
yeah, absolutely. And like, no different to combative sports. The name of the game is to win. I suppose the winning in sport has its accolades. Winning in a life and death scenario obviously has that living and breathing accolade. So, Sel, you get people fresh into the gym here from a combative training point of view. I mean, I know you do elite level fighting and training in this gym with elite athletes, but you also get people who've never put their hand in gloves before. Apart from the technique, how important is it for them to sort of feel that immersion and that, actually getting struck?
Yeah, I think Kiwi put it really perfectly before in the aspect of people coming here have an understanding of what they're coming here for, but at the same time, it's one thing understanding what you're coming here for the first time and then it actually happening.
Yeah.
And it's like anything, there is a level of shock, there's a level of anxiety, anticipation, and all these emotions that go on with just the aspect of even walking in the gym. I always say for most people, the hardest part is getting through those doors. It's the aspect of it's unknown. It's not a comfortable feeling for most people. I know it's very different to guys like us that have been around it for quite a while, but for the average person, they spend their whole existence avoiding confrontation, and often those same people often end up in places that they can't avoid it. So what do they do then? And that's when that anxiety and pressure and feeling of anxiousness takes over them,
and that society group is the guys going into law enforcement potentially as well. Exactly. So the same, exactly the same thing walking into a police academy or walking into a combative gym.
You're going through a very similar situation. So our first aspect more than anything is trying to get them to walk past those doors and understand you're not coming here to be hurt or anything like that. You're coming here to feel comfortable in what may feel like a foreign environment, making that become your norm. Effectively, that's what happens outside of these walls. You feel comfortable. Sure, someone's not throwing punches at you every day, but everything else feels easier from that point. The confrontation in general you feel a lot more secure and confident within those confrontations in an everyday scenario. So
It's essentially what this suit's providing as well, right? Like when you do take it to the next level and you do, choose to put yourself in a position where you will get hit. The suit does allow you to feel just a little bit more comfortable because you can absorb the shock of the punches, but still understand what it feels like to be struck.
Also then be able to execute, knowing that you can train and not hurt your training partner as well. So you can execute those moves
absolutely
with precision, distance, feeling the impact of the subject and feeling their response and their defence. And it's essential for that learning process.
I also think there's clearly levels to how hard you can push. Like the human body has its levels. So you can only go 100 every now and then. And the closest way to getting to be able to go 100 is by having protective mechanisms. Because if you come in here and me and Miles just started blasting each other, we're going to be injured. We're going to be out for a sustainable period of time, and then no one gets better at their craft, at their profession. So this allows progressive overload over a period of time to allow you to get better at whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and really well articulated there. And I agree with you too. One of my points is like the reality, even having someone come in and test your skills physically is one thing, but it's having that confidence where I can deliver 65-70% force and know that it's not going to hurt the person who's trying to train.
Yeah, 100%. It's about mindset. If you've got the confidence that if it does go physical, that you can at least respond appropriately for the circumstance and within the confines of what the organisation requires. It gives you greater confidence when you're actually having that conversation with them before it goes a little bit haywire. I think it's fundamentally important. So hopefully, the organisations can see the connection between really good communicative capability is actually an extension of confidence with physical prowess.
And it's achievable, right? Too. That's one thing we always say. I've actually had people say, "Oh yeah, but look at you. Look at the size." And you go, "Hey, it's like nothing to do with the size of me. That's not the size of the dude in the fight, right?" Like everyone can build on their skill sets, and you guys see it in that operational context all the time as well.
And a kid like this, this is the one I was just listening to blokes talk. The one difference that the boys have that the agencies and the people we work with don't have is time. Like you have time to work with people to develop that skill over time and constant recall of that skill. And I saw Nathan's talked about how we operate in condition, how we go through these neural pathways of developing this unconscious competence and skill that fighters get through over 20 or 30 years. Policing don't. They get very limited time, so they need to maximise that time to be as optimal as possible, and the exposure as optimal as possible. So things like suit where they can train at the highest level in the limited exposures they have in the workplace is going to optimise what they can learn and what they can absorb as humans before they're put into the ultimate test, which is wearing the blue suit every day and waiting for that radio to go.
Well, thanks gentlemen, thanks for the boys from OPS, and once again CMBT. We're really excited to be doing some work with you moving forward. So we're going to be creating some more content that's specific around combat skills and combat activities. Incorporating some of the gear at times, and tapping into that operational context of it as well. So we look forward to bringing that to you, and yeah, thanks again today, boys.
Thanks.